3 years after the divorce. I met my ex-husband again at the Civil Affairs Bureau. He brought his first love and the son born to me. Looking like a family of 3. The 6-year-old son ran over and hugged me. "Mom, I miss you so much." I pushed my son away and exchanged pleasantries with him. "Are you getting married?" "Congratulations." He gave a bitter smile. "No. I'm here to get a divorce." "What about you?" I was stunned for a moment and showed off the diamond ring on my ring finger. "I'm here to get married." I never expected to see Matteo again at the Civil Affairs Bureau. He stood up and walked out. Coincidentally, he met me who had just entered. "Corey, why are you here?" His tone was a bit surprised. "How have you been these past few years?" Matteo seemed to want to have a long talk with me, but I just wanted to avoid him. "Not bad." He repeated these 2 words and nodded unconsciously. Just as I was about to turn and leave, he suddenly spoke. "This seems to be the first time we've met since our divorce 3 years ago." Coincidentally, the last time I saw him was also at the Civil Affairs Bureau. At that time, we ended our marriage of more than 4 years. "Do you want to go back and pack your luggage?" As I walked to the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I looked up at the blue sky. "No need. I pack every day. Actually, there's nothing important." I turned to look at him. "What I should pack is not at home." Matteo was about to open the car door when he paused and his voice cooled down. "It was you who insisted on divorce for Sense. She has no family, and has cancer. You are much happier than her. Can't you just give in to her?" He looked back at me, seemingly very disappointed. Even Lucas knows how to be inclusive of sick people. What he said so seriously only made me feel ridiculous. Where am I happier than her? I tightened the divorce certificate in my hand. Now, I don't need to give in. Anyway, all my family members are hers now. Sense is the daughter of Matteo's family nanny. When Matteo was 8 years old, he was kidnapped together with the nanny. The kidnappers only kept Matteo for ransom and killed the nanny. Out of guilt, the Song family took the nanny's daughter into their home and raised her as their own daughter. After reaching adulthood, Matteo and Sense secretly fell in love. Sense was then sent abroad. At first, they were still in contact. A few years later, when the futures market crashed and the Song family was in debt, Matteo lost contact with Sense. It was also at that time that I rescued Matteo, who was about to jump into the river and commit suicide on the bridge. I accompanied him through the low point of his career, walked into the palace of marriage, and gave birth to a son, until the 5th anniversary of our marriage. Sense suddenly returned from abroad. She took out the diagnosis report and medical records and cried, saying that the reason she cut off contact with him back then was because she was diagnosed with cancer. Matteo took her to the hospital and had various examinations done. Finally, it was confirmed to be true. When I arrived at the hospital, I just saw Sense tightly hugging him and crying intermittently, while Matteo gently patted her back with his palm. That scene was engraved in my heart. As I expected. Later, Sense took everything from me. The doctor said that cancer patients need the company and care of their families. She has no other family members. I want to take care of her more. I heard that she still has a father. Matteo didn't expect me to mention this and his face quickly darkened. Who told you this? Sense said that it wasn't her father. He was just a lowlife. They had already cut off contact long ago. Seeing how he protected Sense like this, I didn't say anything else. During that time, Matteo was in the hospital accompanying Sense. After 1 or 2 months, he rarely came home. I took care of 3-year-old Lucas at home. He is a precocious child. Mom, they all say that Dad has another woman. Are you going to get a divorce? I covered him with a quilt. No, Mom and Dad won't get a divorce. Lucas scarefully held my hand. Mom, come on. I love you. I quietly closed the door and dialed Matteo's number. Lucas is already having wild thoughts. Come back in a few days. His voice on the other end was very low so as not to disturb Sense. I know. Neither of us hung up the phone. But we also had nothing to say. We were silent for a while. I called his name, Matteo. The tacit understanding of many years of marriage made him understand what I meant. Juan. For the sake of her mother. I have the responsibility to take care of her. I leaned back against the wall, slowly squatted down, covered my eyes with my hand, and gave a soft, come home early. When I hung up the phone, I squatted for a long time. When I stood up, my eyes went black and I fell forward to the ground. I got sick inopportunely. That illness wasn't serious. It just required hospitalization for observation. I was in the same hospital as Sense. Coincidentally, we had the same chief physician. The difference was that Sense was in a VIP ward while I was in an ordinary single room. Many people thought that Sense was the real Mrs. Song. Matteo came to see me and his tone was slightly apologetic. Wife, you don't mind, do you? The VIP wards are full. This is a minor illness for you and you won't be staying for a few days. I don't mind. Before marrying Matteo, I was an ordinary person and had no demands for material things. When Sense heard that I was hospitalized, she brought a small basket of oranges and came to see me too. When the attending doctor saw her, naturally he mentioned her condition. Matteo also walked over and joined the discussion. The doctor gave a treatment plan. Sense didn't like chemotherapy because it made her hair fall out. Matteo said he would buy her a hat. The atmosphere was quite pleasant. I half lay on the hospital bed, pinching an orange in my hand, looking at them calmly. It didn't seem like I was looking at my own husband. Before leaving, the young intern took the orange from my hand and placed it on the bedside table. You can't eat this. His voice was cold. After everyone left, Matteo sat back down and peeled an orange for me. He held the orange segment to my mouth and started a conversation with me reluctantly. Wife, do you think hair loss is so terrible for girls? I avoided his feeding. The doctor said I can only eat liquid food. Don't you remember? Matteo's hand stopped in my dress. He gave an embarrassed smile. I thought fruits were not included. His words were not convincing at all. But I didn't want to argue with him. What did you ask me just now? What's terrible? Matteo was stunned. Nothing. Just talking casually. That's good. I turned my head and looked out the window. The scenery was bleak and people's hearts were cold. After I was hospitalized, Lucas came to see me every day. I told the nanny not to bring him over. Children have weak immunity. Don't catch an illness in the hospital. The nanny said that Lucas insisted on coming. At first, I was quite pleased. But as soon as Lucas came, he would look for his dad. After just showing up in front of me, he would run to Sense's ward. I thought it was because the child was ignorant and could only hint that he should go less. But it was useless. Until I overheard him talking to the nanny by accident. If Dad is going to marry Sense in the future, I definitely want to stay on Dad's side. Because Mom doesn't have money to support me. So I also need to get along well with Sense. Right? As for Mom, I am her biological child. She won't be angry with me. It turned out that Lucas was even more sensible than I imagined. Sense had to shave her head because of hair loss from chemotherapy. Lucas also shaved his head to accompany her. The three of them sat on the hospital bed and took selfies to encourage Sense to defeat the disease. Sense forwarded the photo to me. Do you think that if you don't make a fuss, I won't be able to take it? I held that photo and sat quietly on the hospital bed. From dark to dawn. Sitting all night. Finally, I figured out one thing. I shouldn't get involved in other people's life issues. Later, before I was discharged from the hospital, Sense had another accident. Sense's father sneaked into the VIP ward and found Sense to make trouble. Matteo investigated and found that I had transferred money to him several times in advance. He threw a stack of evidence on me. I never thought of divorcing you. Was it necessary for you to bully Sense? I didn't defend myself at all and took out the prepared divorce agreement. I've thought about it and made up my mind. Matteo, Let's get a divorce. In the hall of the Civil Affairs Bureau. People were coming and going. Matteo stood opposite me. In fact, I looked for you later. Perhaps when he remembered to look for me. He found that I had withdrawn from his world. And he knew nothing about my world. You looked for me? Matteo looked at me. Slowly lowered his eyes. And pursed his lips. It was Lucas. He was always sick during that time and wanted to find his mom several times. Children have weak immunity. Getting sick is common. Anyway, it's all over. I lit up the screen of my phone. It was almost time. The person I was waiting for should be coming soon. I still have something to do. So Before I could finish speaking, a small figure rushed over and hugged my waist tightly. Moan. You're here. I miss you so much. It was 6-year-old Lucas. For a moment, I lowered my head and touched his hair. Then slowly pushed him away. Sense was standing not far away. Her face was even paler than 3 years ago. You're back? You heard about it so quickly. The 3 of them. A family of 3. All appeared at the Civil Affairs Bureau. I guess they were going to get married. Judging from their reactions, it seemed that they thought I was here to disrupt. But today was completely accidental. Are you getting married? Congratulations to you. Matteo suddenly raised his eyes and looked at me. His eyes complicated. Don't you know? Even Lucas stared at me. His eyes full of confusion. Mom. Don't you know when you come here? Know what? I was stunned. Matteo lowered his head and took Lucas's hand. No. I'm here to get a divorce. He gave a bitter smile. What about you? I was stunned on the spot. It turned out that he and Sense had already gotten married long ago. And they had even reached the point of getting a divorce? What happened in these years? Lucas held Matteo with one hand and shook my arm with the other. Mom. Will you come home with us? I came to my senses. Slowly lowered my hand. And stroked the ring with my fingertip. Matteo sighed. Corey. I interrupted what he was about to say and raised the back of my hand. Facing him directly. A brand new wedding ring was clearly on the ring finger. I'm here to get married. Matteo was stunned without hiding it. You're getting married. With whom? With me. Suddenly, my fingertip was held by someone. That person lowered his head and looked at me gently. Sorry. I'm a little late. On his ring finger was the same wedding ring as mine. The song father and son stared at him in silence. It was Sense who quietly stepped forward 2 steps, wanting to recognize him more clearly. Louis raised his head and met her gaze. Your illness should be cured. Right? Sense's face stiffened. Matteo turned his head to look at her. Do you know each other? Louis extended his hand to Matteo. We've met. 3 years ago. In the hospital. Matteo obviously didn't remember. But he shook hands out of politeness. Really? I don't remember very well. Louis smiled inferently. You may be busy. I was an intern in Director Han's team at that time. Your wife and Corey were hospitalized. I often saw you on both sides. Matteo couldn't answer this. And he was visibly embarrassed. Louis withdrew his hand and looked at Matteo and Sense. Ready to end this conversation. Congratulations to both of you on achieving success. When we turned and left, Matteo spoke up. I came to get a divorce. There seemed to be great reluctance in his voice. Louis held my hand and calmly turned his head to look back at him. Then, congratulations even more. Matteo frowned slightly and was about to ask more clearly when Sense called out to him. It's our turn. Sense and Matteo went to the registration window. Louis and I sat in the waiting area. He seems to regret it. What should I do? I didn't speak. He clicked his tongue softly, expressing his dissatisfaction. I incredulously laughed out loud. Are you afraid that your first marriage can't compare to his third marriage? Louis gave me a rather worried look. He has children. I blinked at him. We will have children in the future too. Matteo and Sense came out, and just saw the scene. Matteo's face darkened a bit. Sense was missing some materials. She called the driver to fetch them. Louis and I went to the window to register for marriage. The staff handed out forms and asked us to sign and confirm. The signature pen in my hand was suddenly snatched away. "Mom, I don't allow you to marry him." Lucas rushed between us, tightly clutching the pen in his hand. With a serious expression. "Mom, Dad will be divorced soon. You can be together." Mateo didn't stop his behavior but stood there, always looking at me. I glanced at him and then bent down to ask Lucas. "Why are you making trouble? Your father is remarrying. You support it." Lucas was stumped by my question. "Dad and Mom are different. Dad is Dad." He stammered and couldn't explain clearly. But I understood very well. Dad is a free person, while Mom is a tool person. There's no difference. Dad needs respect. And so does Mom. Louis had already signed and casually handed me the pen. He pinched Lucas's face. "Punitive lie. She gave birth to you. Not you." Lucas was very hostile to him, and became emotional. He suddenly pushed Louis away. "I don't like you. I don't like you." The form we had just filled out was also snatched by him and torn to pieces. "I just don't allow you to get married." He cried and angrily made demands on me. This commotion attracted everyone's attention. Lucas was determined to prevent me from getting the certificate. The staff also advised us to deal with family affairs first. Mateo finally spoke. "Corey, you haven't come back to see. He may find it hard to accept for a while." I ignored his little thought and looked at Luke as seriously. "If I don't get married today, I will get married tomorrow. Accept it as soon as possible." The expressions of the father and son immediately stiffened. Louis stood by my side. "President Song, is it appropriate for you to let the child stand up for you?" Mateo's face became even uglier. Sense was like an invisible person, avoiding our gazes throughout. Since we couldn't get the certificate today, Louis and I were about to leave. Probably Mateo still wanted to come and pester. From afar, I heard Sense say a word in a low voice. "Maybe she has been cheating for a long time." Louis also heard it. He suddenly stopped. He firmly turned back and walked up to Sense, pointing at her nose and scolding. "You've been a mistress for so long. Do you think everyone is a mistress? I didn't want to deal with you today. But you are looking for trouble. Why? Have you forgotten that I reported your falsified medical records?" Sense's face instantly turned pale. I learned about Louis' report later. After the divorce, I changed all my contact information and went abroad to relax for 3 months. Unexpectedly, I ran into Louis in a foreign country. I was impressed by this young drive. He is the only Ivy League doctor in Director Han's team. He is handsome and has a good temperament. Even the nurses say he is good-looking. He is also the doctor who coldly took the orange from my hand during that reunion abroad. He apologized to me solemnly. "Sorry. I thought only the VIP ward was for Mrs. Song. So I thought you were." At that time, my state of mind was much better. I could even make 1 or 2 jokes. "You thought I was a mistress? Then you are quite a prite." Louis coughed awkwardly. "At that time, she was older than you and had a child. You were younger and more beautiful than her. I was too simple-minded." "That's my son." I corrected him. He paused for a moment. "Sorry. I learned about it later." "I don't care. No need to apologize or pity me. I am extremely free now." But Louis still had more to say. "But there is more than just this that I need to apologize for. It so happened that when Sense's father, when Rong, came to the hospital that day, he ran into Louis. When Rong said he wanted to find the wife of President Song, Louis kindly advised him to make an appointment in advance because Mrs. Song was in the VIP ward and couldn't enter casually. When Rong was already guilty. Without further confirmation, he found Sense. I heard that because of this incident, President Song thought it was instigated by you and you got divorced. I feel very guilty." I suddenly understood. In fact, when Rong came to find me that day, he found Sense just by mistake. But why do you know Sense's father? And you also transferred money to him. I think when Ron is a jerk. Were you threatened? Louis was very clear-headed. It couldn't help but make me compare with Matteo. Even an outsider could see it. But he was confused by concern. I'll tell you later when there is a chance. Louis didn't ask further but took out a silver USB flash drive and placed it on the table. If you want to win back Mr. Song, this should be useful. What's this? I was very confused. After you left the hospital, I really wanted to do something for you. Finally, I found out that Sense's medical records were forged. This is the evidence. I was speechless for a long time, and already believed it for the most part. Sense is capable of doing such things. Forged medical records. Did she bribe the doctor? Then shouldn't you report it internally? Louis gave a helpless wry smile. I reported it at that time. But unfortunately, it was reported to the person himself. Later, I resigned. It turned out that Director Han was bribed by Sense and modified the pathology report. A tumor in Sense's body was judged to be benign, and the possibility of lesion was initially ruled out. He lost his job. To vent my anger, I returned the USB flash drive to him. Thank you for standing up for me. But I don't need to win back anyone. The reason for my divorce is simple because I don't want to live with this person anymore. As for Matteo, even if he was deceived by Sense, what does it mean? Sense's deception is full of loopholes. It's just betting on his preference. 3 years later, Louis exposed the matter of the medical records. Was your illness a lie to me back then? Matteo looked at Sense incredulously. Sense tearfully denied it. No, I don't know. I don't know these things either. But Matteo was already suspicious. I will check. Let's suspend the divorce registration first. He paused and looked at Sense. I need to reconsider the property division. Only then did Sense, unable to care about being embarrassed anymore, pull Matteo's arm. Didn't we talk it over? We are about to get divorced. What are you still fussing about with me? The more she spoke, the softer her voice became. I understand. Sense didn't say 2 words throughout today because she was afraid of ruining her matter of getting money through divorce. President Song. Check carefully and see what kind of person your little childhood sweetheart is. Louis threw down this sentence and pulled me away first. Both he and I came by car. He was going back to the hospital and I was going back to the pottery shop. As soon as I got in the car, the passenger door was opened and Lucas got in. Mom, I want to stay with you for a while. I took him to my pottery shop. This is what I opened after returning to China. I hired 2 girls as clerks. Daily activities are pottery experience and hand-made ceramic products. There were 2 couples with children in the store doing DIY pottery. Their hands were covered in mud, and there were mud spots on their noses and faces. They were all smiling at each other. Lucas watched for a while, his eyes full of envy. I bent down and asked him, "Do you want to play with this?" He nodded. I called a clerk over to take him to play. Mom, won't you accompany me? Lucas tentatively took my hand. Mom also has her own things to do. I became a full-time housewife after giving birth to Lucas. That childbirth was extremely difficult. The contractions and pain lasted for 12 hours. In the end, the doctor said that the fetus was short of oxygen and had an emergency cesarean section after a failed natural birth. When I woke up, Lucas was placed beside me. I tiredly turned my head to look at him. A newborn baby is really small. The hands are small, and the feet are small. Unexpectedly, it could make me so embarrassed. I stared at him, and slowly smiled. That childbirth left me with many after effects. I had to ask for leave for examinations every now and then. The female leader at that time was very understanding. But I didn't want to cause trouble to my colleagues. So I resigned on my own initiative. After Lucas turned 1 year old, Matao advised me not to go out to work anymore. When I finished my work and went out, Lucas was lying on the table board, waiting for me by guarding the made clay blank. As soon as he saw me, he presented it to me like a treasure. Mom, look. This is the cup I made. This is our family. Lucas learned to draw very early. He drew very well. I could see that it was Mateo and me. And the child in the middle was him. I just took one look and handed it to the clerk beside me. Lucas. Your father and I can't remarry. Lucas pursed his lips and didn't speak. I sighed. Is sense not good to you? He stared at me for a long time. Pursed his lips tightly. And tears welled up in his eyes. Why did you say divorce and then divorce? Dad said it was you who insisted on divorcing. Are you angry with Dad and don't care about me anymore? Lucas. You actively chose to live with Dad. When I and Sense were both hospitalized. You chose Sense. Didn't you? I gently wiped away his tears with my fingertip. It was indeed me who proposed the divorce. But it was your father and you who didn't want me first. Lucas. Love is mutual. I will never deny you. But I will not go back for you. Tell me. Did Sense make you feel wronged? Lucas lay on my shoulder and cried in a muffled voice. She bullied me. I was very good to her. After she and Dad got married. The people at home didn't listen to me anymore. I patted his back with my hand to soothe his emotions. When there is a new mistress at home, the people below will definitely change. They won't take good care of Lucas as attentively as when I was there. Lucas looked up at me. His face covered in tears. And his tone was full of pleading. Mom, I was wrong. Are you angry with me? Only you are the best to me. Mom is the only mom. He wiped away tears with the back of his hand. Swallowing his grievance. Dad misses you very much too. Come back. I was never angry with Lucas. I was just disappointed. While he did everything he could to please Sense, I finally realized that he only wanted to be Mateo's son and not mine. Now he regrets it. But I don't. No. Mom is going to have a new family. You must respect Mom as you respect Dad. Lucas stayed with me all afternoon. Even when it was time to close the shop. He still didn't want to leave. I called Mateo to pick him up. But Mateo said on the phone that he and Sense were dealing with the divorce. He asked me to take care of Lucas for a few days. Corey. I know you don't want to see me. But Lucas is always your child. You taking care of him for a few days is what makes me feel the most at ease. After much hesitation, I still refused. I am living with Louis now. It's not convenient to take care of my ex-husband's child. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a while. Then I'll come over. Before long. He arrived. The black Bentley stopped by the roadside. The glass shop door was pushed in, emitting a pleasant electronic welcome sound. The father and son, both elites, were out of place with the warm atmosphere of the pottery shop. Lucas held my hand and refused to leave no matter what. Lucas. Go back with him. I'm also about to get off work. I passed by him. Mateo suddenly grabbed my wrist. Because of Sense. You want to divorce me. Even for why you transferred money to when wrong. You didn't offer a single word of explanation. He held my wrist and walked in front of me. I'll only ask you this once. Did your divorce proposal back then have anything to do with that doctor? I couldn't believe what he was asking. Mateo. Do you think everyone is like you? With one hand held by him. I raised my other hand and gave him a slap neatly. He didn't dodge at all and took the slap hard. There was a red mark on half of his face. It seems I misunderstood you. He lowered his head and loosened his grip a bit. But his voice still carried insistence. I was deceived by Sense. But you transferred money to when wrong. I can't help but suspect you. Louis' voice rang out from the entrance. If I were you, I would go ask that when wrong instead of suspecting your own wife. Isn't that right? Louis walked up to me, looked down coldly, and glanced at Mateo's hand. It was still on my wrist. Let her go. Or I'll take action. In front of your son. I don't want to make it embarrassing for you. Mateo let go of my hand. I'll look into it. Corey. I'm sorry. I didn't accept his apology. Louis unceremoniously asked the father and son to leave. He closed the shop door for me and looked at me resentfully. I cooked the meal. But you didn't come home. So I came to check. He gave me a sidelong glance and saw the three of you reminiscing. This person was secretly jealous. I suppressed a smile and cupped his cheek. So that's it. Then let's go home and eat. Wait a minute. Louis looked down at me, put an arm around my waist, and kissed me forcefully. The Bentley by the roadside raised its window, blocking Matayo's gloomy profile. It slowly drove away in the night. When we got home, there were dishes on the table. Louis was a good cook. After he resigned from the hospital back then, he entered a postdoctoral research station abroad for a transition. I didn't know anyone abroad. He would invite me out for meals on his days off. After a few months, Western food was too unpalatable. He offered to cook for me. That meal was really delicious. So delicious that I couldn't refuse him bringing groceries over anymore. By the time of the 100th meal, he prepared a candlelight dinner to celebrate. In the middle, he confessed to me, "Corey, I like you. Seriously like you. In addition to my cooking, I hope you also consider me." He really made my heart flutter. But I had already experienced a failed marriage. I had my concerns. You know my situation. I have a son who is currently being raised by my ex-husband. He nodded. Don't worry. My eyesight is better than his. We naturally got together. At that time, it had been more than a year since my divorce. Revenge is not too late in 3 years. After Louis returned to China this time. Regarding the incident back then, he reported it again. Director Han was placed under disciplinary review. Sen's bribery of the doctor was also exposed. I heard that Sen's was under investigation. Matayo was contacting the lawyer team to revise the divorce agreement. Lucas had the driver send him to the pottery shop every day after school. Even though I was often not in the shop, he would wait alone for most of the day. Over time, everyone knew that he was the son of me and my ex-husband. Matayo occasionally came to pick him up in person. Before leaving each time, he would pick 2 expensive pottery items and take them to the counter to pay. When I came to the shop in the afternoon, I heard 2 girls gossiping. The boss's rich ex-husband is quite handsome. Is he trying to win her back? Yes. But the boss has a boyfriend. I've seen him. And the boss doesn't even come to the shop anymore. Clearly, she doesn't want to get back together. Hey. Since you've seen both of them, who is more handsome? Well, still the current one. The way he looks at the boss is amazing. I walked in and deliberately coughed twice. The 2 of them didn't dare to speak anymore. Matayo was sitting on the sofa in my office. There was a blue folder on the table. When I opened it, it was a property gift agreement. Matayo had already signed it in advance. Back when you divorced me, you took a sum of money and left. These are the real estate and company original shares that I sorted out. They are what you deserve. I carefully looked through it for a while. The total asset value added up to nearly 10 million. He was indeed sincere. I put the folder beside him. It's because of Sen's entanglement now that you think of how decisive I was when we divorced back then. Right? I can understand you. But I don't accept it. I paused for a while. You might as well leave it to Lucas instead of giving it to me. After all, I'm not by his side. Matayo stared at the folder, was silent for a while, and then looked up at me. My marriage to Sen's wasn't what you thought. I thought she was going to die at that time. And Lucas got along very well with her. I interrupted his words. You don't need to explain to me. I just hope that in the future when you remarry, you can pay more attention to Lucas. I won't remarry. Don't say such meaningless words. In 1 or 2 years, 3 or 5 years, he would definitely remarry. Even if he really didn't remarry, he wouldn't be without a girlfriend. Matayo forced a bitter smile. You don't believe me anymore. I didn't respond. I was about to leave. He called me. I've checked on when wrong. He's dead. Louis accompanied me to the funeral home. Matayo came with us. The ownerless ashes in the funeral home were placed in a temporary storage area. The staff confirmed my relationship with Wenrong. He was my adoptive father. After paying the fees to the funeral home, I received Wenrong's ashes. The three of us were sitting in the car on the way back. In this strange silence, Matao hesitantly spoke. Did you and Sense know each other since childhood? I softly answered. Yes. I knew her earlier than you. The car stopped on the mountain road along the mountain. I poured the ashes into the ditch filled with fallen leaves. Mateo, when I saw you by the river, I recognized you. You are the child saved by my mother. When I was 5 years old, I came to this city with my mother. My mother was very lucky and quickly found a job. She worked as a nanny for a very wealthy family. She would bring me expensive snacks and toys that the little boy of the employer didn't want. At that time, Wenrong, the neighbor, was pursuing my mother. But my mother didn't like him. Wenrong's daughter would come to play with me. She always grabbed my toys. I was a little annoyed with her. But she was my only friend. Until that time when my mother didn't come home. After Wenrong found out, he asked Sense to come and stay with me at my house. Later, when the people from the Song family came, Wenrong tricked me into looking for my mother. Sense took my identity by false claim. Wenrong told the Song family that Sense was his and my mother's child born out of wedlock. He received a sum of compensation from the Song family. Wenrong took me to a small town to settle down. Not long after, he found a woman and got married. Relying on that compensation money, he lived a muddled life. I grew up under the care of my adoptive mother. After I became an adult, my adoptive mother passed away. I returned to this city. I couldn't help but follow the news of the Song family. When I saw Mateo preparing to jump into the river, I decisively climbed over the guardrail and pulled him down. At first, I just didn't want the person saved by my mother to die like this. I didn't expect to go so far with Mateo. Mateo was struck by lightning. His lips trembled slightly, and he froze on the spot. Why didn't you tell me? My mood was extremely calm. I never thought of telling you. When Sense came back, at first I wanted to say something, but you had already hugged her. Later, it was even less necessary. I held a sure win card, but I didn't want to win against Sense anymore. Because if I won, what would the trophy be? A husband who couldn't see the truth or an infinitely selfish son? I thought for a long time, adhering to an attitude of being responsible for life. I decided to leave this mess. Matao looked at me with red eyes, seemingly unable to accept this fact. I thought I owed Sense a life. That's why I tolerated her doing things that hurt you. The person I believe I can spend my life with is only you. I didn't agree with his view. No, what you tolerated was your own inherent flaws. You have a preference for Sense. You find reasons for her. You are willingly deceived. Her illness is fake. Her background is fake. Even when Wenrong came to you on his own initiative, you didn't even check. How difficult are these loopholes to find? Mateo, when you were evaluating me, I was also evaluating you. You are not the person I can spend the rest of my life with. I didn't regret saving Mateo, nor did I think I lost to Sense. There were only two things that I really regretted. I shouldn't have married him. And even more so, I shouldn't have had a child. But it doesn't matter. Remedial measures are still in time. Mateo was speechless by my rebuttal. He stared at me for a long time. There were tears in his eyes. And his voice trembled slightly. So in the divorce, it wasn't because you were jealous of Sense. You just don't want me anymore. Right? His focus was actually on this. His eyes looked very pitiful, as if he was very afraid of getting an affirmative answer. I simply admitted it. Yes. I don't like competing with others. And there's nothing to compete for. Since Sense can take it away, then I'll give it to her. I directly got into the car and turned to look at him. Mateo, we're not going the same way. I saw from the rearview mirror that Mateo was still standing on the mountain road. His figure became smaller and finally disappeared from sight. I took Louis to see my mother. Mom. When Rong is dead. I'm living well. Although the process was tortuous. The ending is bright. Louis placed yellow daisies in front of the tombstone. I will take good care of Corey. The flower branches swayed gently in the wind. The smile in the photo seemed even more vivid. My mom must like you very much. Louis put his arm around my shoulder. No, she is warning me to be good to her baby. I rested on his shoulder. My face was ice cold. Ma Tomo and Sense divorced. Sense didn't get a single penny. She came to make trouble for me and slapped the table at me. You told him. Now are you satisfied? I just want to take the money and go abroad. Does it affect you? Corey. From her hysteria. I read other information. When Rong is dead. Are you in a hurry to go abroad? Sense immediately became timid. Her face was extremely strange. She threw down a sentence of not knowing what I was talking about, and then fled in a panic. Thinking of the terrifying guess in my mind. I still felt it was unlikely. She shouldn't dare. Right? But the facts verified my guess. One afternoon. Sense was detained by the police at the airport. After I divorced and went abroad that year. When Rong instead pestered Sense for money and threatened her with Sense's life experience. Unexpectedly. Sense was driven to desperation. In a moment of impulse. She drove and hit him. It is worth mentioning that the seriously injured when Rong walked dozens of meters over the mountains and accidentally rolled down into a mountain stream. This is why it took some time for the police to solve the case. After some time, I saw Mateo again. He was holding Lucas and was carefully dressed. He was holding Ecuadorian roses in his arms and appeared at the store entrance. I've completely cut off eyes with Sense. The house she lived in has been sold. The car she drove has also been sold. There is nothing of hers around me anymore. Corey. I want to win you back again. He handed me that bouquet of flowers. I took it casually and threw it into the nearby trash can. Those are not important. What's important is the people she has touched the dirtiest. Mateo's eyes dimmed for a moment. But he was still pretending to persist. It doesn't matter. You don't like me. I did something wrong. But I won't give up. Lucas pulled my sleeve. Mom. Just give Dad a chance. Our family can be together again. I pried off his fingers. Don't come again in the future. Lucas bit his lip and looked at me. Crying a grieved lie. After that. I didn't go to the store anymore. The young clerk girl told me that Mateo brought Lucas over every day. The father and son made a lot of painted pottery. They filled an entire wall of shelves. The cups of various sizes all had our family's previous group photos. I decided to go to the store. Mateo was late. Sorry. There was a car accident on the way. But I'm fine. He was a bit disheveled. But his tone was very happy. I want to tell you. Don't do this anymore. Mateo looked at the wall full of handicrafts and was slightly lost in thought. When making these with Lucas, it was also like going back to the past. At that time, our family was really very happy. Suddenly, he knelt down on one knee and took out a ring box from his arms. I was able to meet you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. It was just so coincidental that you didn't have time to get married to someone else. This is God giving me a chance to correct my mistakes again. He stared into my eyes and slowly opened the ring box. The diamond was even bigger than the original wedding ring. Corey. What's so good about that doctor? You haven't married him yet. Why not give me a chance? I reached out my hand. Mateo's face showed expectation. With a flick of my 2 fingers, I closed the box for him. You're overthinking. We didn't get the certificate that day. We went the next morning. I looked down at him. I'm married. Mateo. The ring box suddenly rolled to the ground. Mateo froze. He still maintained his original kneeling posture. Louis and I had a wedding abroad. Just wanted to come back to China and get a certificate too. Mateo. I specifically called you here because I'm going to transfer this pottery store. Louis is going abroad to inherit his father's private hospital. I will also immigrate. Louis' family background is so good that it is beyond ordinary people's imagination. Mateo's face turned pale. He immediately stood up. His voice was full of urgency and panic. You mean, you will never come back to China again? What about Lucas? Don't you want him anymore? For Lucas. You can convey it to him. I went to notify the two clerks. Looking back, Mateo hadn't left yet. If you want to take those painted pottery items, take them away. Otherwise, they will be uniformly destroyed. He sat on the sofa with his head down, covering his eyes with his hand. His shoulders couldn't stop shaking. That day, he smashed those pottery items he made by hand one by one again. Finally, he squatted among the broken porcelain pieces all over the floor and cried extremely depressingly. He buried his head in his knees. The hanging hand tightly held a porcelain piece. Blood oozed from between his fingers. Sense was in prison. Mateo bought my pottery store. Louis and I were also going abroad. Lucas chased to the airport lobby. I had just swiped through the airport ticket gate when I heard him crying and loudly shouting, "Mom," from behind. I turned around. Mateo stood behind him. His eyes were slightly red. His hand was wrapped in gauze. Lucas saw me at a glance and ran desperately in my direction in the crowd. Louis asked me with concern, "If you miss him in the future, you can pick him up to play during the holidays." I thought for a while, well, probably not in recent years. Louis was full of confusion. I held his arm and looked up at him. "Because I'm pregnant." "Really?" Louis was stunned. "Really? I hinted at you at the Civil Affairs Bureau." He thought for a moment and suddenly realized, "I thought you were coaxing me." He slapped his forehead hard. The corner of his mouth curved into a happy arc. Lucas had just run outside the gate and heard this news. "Mom, you have a new child?" His expression was very dejected. I nodded. The airport lobby echoed with flight announcements. I was leaving. "Lucas. Goodbye." He still stood there, looking at our backs and shedding tears. He murmured, "Mom, I'm sorry. I heard it. But I didn't turn back." Louis and I settled down abroad. Later, we had a lovely daughter. Louis quite likes taking care of children. Instead, I can't get involved. But he was afraid that I would be bored. So he encouraged me to pursue a Ph.D. This is a good age for you to pursue a Ph.D. I accepted his suggestion and chose to continue my studies and improve myself. Many years later, I saw Sense once. She was sitting in a wheelchair with a bald head. She was as weak as a thin piece of paper. It was really ironic. She really had cancer. She was afraid of being discovered by Mateo before and didn't have regular checkups every year. As a result, the tumor became malignant and wasn't discovered in time. She, who was still serving her sentence, applied for medical parole outside prison. She saw doctors at home and abroad. They all said there were only 3 months left. But all this had nothing to do with me anymore. On the day of graduating with a Ph.D., I updated a post on my social media. In the photo, I was wearing a doctoral gown and holding a bouquet of flowers in both hands. My face was filled with smiles. Louis was holding our daughter and standing closely by my side. He seemed even more proud than me. This is the family I chose for myself.